we're all going to be facing our fears. Everybody's worst nightmare. They're going to make sure that it comes true. They've been watching us for so long that they know our greatest fears as they see you behind the scenes. When you're sitting in your living room, when it's time to get everybody to sit down and watch this show in your living room, they're going to get you to fight yourself. You're going to fight yourself. All your thoughts that pop in your head, if any one of those thoughts takes you in a direction of fear and you don't recognize it, you're going to face it. It's best to recognize your fears now and kind of test it as you go each day. Just test your fears with whatever it is and go follow through with it. So I think it's time for me to reset how I've been approaching YouTube. Because at first, I get on, like, I'm not really thinking anybody's going to watch a video of mine. And then I put it out there, and then I didn't have any comments. And I seen other people get all these comments from these fake shootings, and I start thinking, man, I wish I can get some comments. And then I got to a point where people would talk too much, and I couldn't shut them up. And I could. I just stopped the comment section. And I was really bad on myself then because of the demons that were being thrown at me by you guys on the other end. My enemies. My enemies. That's why God said, love your enemies. Yeah, you guys are my enemies. I love you. My enemies. But that did not come naturally either because it had to progress. So what you witness is from the beginning. I'm talking to the ones that have been watching from the beginning. You've seen me go up and down and up and down. And I'll say things that I don't care if I'm wrong after the fact. I don't care if a date is wrong. I don't care if I misinterpret a verse. Because when I figure out that I misinterpret it, then now I got the truth. And then I'll say how I feel with how my understanding is at that time too. So I'm guilty of jumping to conclusions too fast. And I didn't want to do this with Derek Bros. So I didn't come at you, Derek, because I'm trying to get views. And I know that you know that, but you have to say it anyway. Even though you're not saying channels like mine, that with the past 2 weeks you've had this, there's been some changes going on, and Justin's been communicating with you, and I didn't want to make the same mistake I made with accusing everybody else of something because I have an initial reaction and I interpret something as that, and then I say it, and then maybe later on I'll think, well, oh, it's a learning curve. I'm not sorry about the things that I had to go through in order to learn, but I am sorry for accusing people of being something that they're not. So I'm going to reset, and because now I realize I'm talking to the world. I'm talking to the gods of the earth, the ones that just run stuff, and you're showing me how easy it is that you can run it. So I'm sorry for accusing you of being the Antichrist or the false Christ. I'm sorry. Antichrist, that's okay. Because there needs to be a Christ and there needs to be an Antichrist. Because whoever isn't for Christ is an Antichrist. So there needs to be a king over them so they can keep them in line without, causing too many problems. And then the Christ Spirit, there's two seats. There's the seat of Christ and there's the seat of Antichrist. It doesn't mean that the seat of the Antichrist is going to be wanting to kill Christ, but the Spirit continues on in the earth. There's two seats. There's two witnesses. And I've said this sometime last year, what I've caught on to. Maybe if I can find my video where I said it, I don't know what the title is. But I said that two witnesses, one of them is Christ, one of them is Lucifer. And they're both witnesses. But then there's this thing about Christ being Lucifer, Lucifer being Christ, Satan being a different from Lucifer. And then, look, there's two serpents that run the world. And this isn't an accusation. And it's Derek Burrows and it's Jonathan Click. And they're brothers. That's confirmed. I've come against Stephen James DeShawn, rightfully so, because he's still lying. Because I know that I'm not lying, and he's lying about me. Therefore, I bear witness that he's lying. Then I got on Click all the way. I showed how my enemy is controlling me. I showed you guys that. Day in and day out. Throughout these past 3 years. Warring with myself, but warring with you and the army that you sent in my direction. The reason why I didn't catch on too fast is because I never thought I was going to make a difference with what I'm saying. This is a reset. I don't have to convince my subs anymore about what I'm seeing in the world, and that I'm communicating with you, with Click, with Derek, with anybody that is on YouTube, but they're not saying who they're talking about as they're talking directly to you. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm not comprehending it and catching on. It's like walking in the park with all those X's, and then I'm just going along checking them off as a check mark. Check, I got that, check. And then going back, and they're gone. Just random communications that they were talking to a spirit. No matter who makes themselves known, this is the Bible being played out, and it's almost fulfilled. So we got to play our part. But we just need to figure out what our part is in the Bible to fulfill it. So the unbelievers, they have Scripture to fulfill as well. The ones that just don't believe that we're, like the ones that don't believe that Bible prophecy is being fulfilled. But at the same time, they fulfill the Scriptures too, because they don't know that we're in that time. So Christ is coming as a thief in the night. And the future, it belongs to the people that know that there's a future. In the beginning, how are you supposed to figure these things out unless you go fully in the wrong direction, hit your head, and then come back? Something click like this when I'm watching Derek's channel, the video, the last one. You and Melania, sorry. There's something that when you're referring to the enemy, because the enemy is something that's going to distract you from anything. The enemy is something that's going to make you think something that, an illusion. You believe the illusion because it's a delusion sent on you. when you believe that, you tend to misinterpret what people are saying. And that's the thing that gets you in trouble, is the judgment. I used to struggle with this, thinking, are people just purposely like lying like this and purposely misinterpreting scripture, and they don't see what it truly means? And then I realized, no, they're just, that's what they believe because of their interpretation. Then over time I learned from Stephen James, Jonathan Clegg, and now Derek, how the language that you guys speak, you can keep talking directly to the Spirit, to the source, and I'll just keep directly talking to you through my channel, and I no longer have any concern that if somebody doesn't believe the words that I'm saying, or somebody might think of me in a different way, it doesn't matter anymore, because that is the enemy. The enemy's trying to get you to feel uncomfortable so you can stop. The enemy could have done that to me because of the harassment on YouTube, exposing what you guys are doing. Isn't that the whole point? Aren't you supposed to figure out their scheme, but then right towards the end, aren't you supposed to figure out that, oh wait, I am my own worst enemy? And before you can take a final seat and relax and retire, you have to get thrown through the fire. You have to go. There's a reason why Daniel wasn't with those three. Like, he was thrown in the lion's den, but the three were thrown through the fire. Now, where was Daniel when this fire happened? Is that the 3 weeks of literally eating no pleasant bread because he's locked up in jail? And the first 3 weeks is eating no pleasant bread because you're not going to be able to go to the store when you don't have any money to buy anything. Because, well, if you do have money, it doesn't matter. They're not accepting it. So anyway, going all the way from the beginning to this point here, I guess it would have helped if people would have told me, which they did tell me. People have been telling me. I've been getting messages all over the place. I'm finally grabbing them and putting them together and realizing, oh, okay, all right, I get it now. No matter what, on YouTube, told Derek I said for them to come vaccine. On YouTube, the 3 years, it's like the first year was completely blindsided, not knowing what the hell I am getting. Like, I literally fell into a ditch, and it was called the depths of hell, YouTube underground world. Fell in there. For the first years, it was like slippery slopes. I'm falling all over the place, trying to find my way. Like, what the hell? Why did I sign up for this? And then I start to grasp things. The second year, I start to catch on. This Stephen James, okay, I see what you're doing here, sort of. And then he's talking sly and weird and call me a liar. It's like, I just couldn't understand it, how somebody could lie so much. Because I know they're lying, because I know they're lying about me and I'm not lying. Therefore, 100% no lying. That's what gets the attention of you guys who are in charge of talking to the spirits that should be in the world at this time. Whichever spirits they are, they're going to make themselves known. Antichrist Spirit, Christ Spirit. There's a seat, and it has Christ's name written all over it. And there's another seat, and it has the Antichrist name written all over it. immediately your interpretation of that is, oh, so it's his enemy, so it's Satan. And then, but when you think a little bit more, Antichrist is, not everybody is believing in Christ and the teachings of him. So therefore there's an Antichrist, there's Antichrist, and there's a leader over to Antichrist, and there's a leader over to Christ. This will never stop forever and ever and ever. It's going to continue on to be a system where there's people that just don't believe in Christ, so they have the Antichrist spirit. Doesn't mean that they are disgustingly hateful murder pricks that want to kill everybody. It just means you just don't go in that direction. I don't know, you never weren't exposed to it or something. But just understand this. The Antichrist in charge and the Christ in charge, they're both working together as two witnesses, and they are the two witnesses that come in the end days because it's the two spirits. So thanks, Derek, for confirming that, because I said that last year. The Christ spirit and Satan are working together. It's just what it is. I always try to hold somebody accountable and try to find out who that person is behind the scenes and then pinpoint it. And sometimes I jump the gun. Like I said, I'm sorry. When I jump the gun on someone's character, well, I already know that, Derek, you produce Hollywood movies because you put it out there. And then Kleck never said that he did, but we all know. And so then towards the end here, I'm starting to catch on to you. And then I see, I don't know about this double serpent thing. I thought there was one, and then I'm still learning. What can I say? So the third year is more of a, hold up, stop. It's the third year is recognition of me being my own worst enemy. So as this third year has come to a close, and now I'm in the fourth year on YouTube, going into the fourth year, technically, because it's 3 whole years already. Then, now it's time to really refine any worries, any stress, any doubt, any fear, anything, because, yeah, I'm going to be kept from the hour of temptation because of what I know, as I'm going to be tempted and tested with that hour that's coming about. So, but it's a way, like, all right, Christ wins anyway. Obviously, it's written. The enemy is not. It's not Derek. It's not Kleck. It's not Stephen James. It's not anybody that has ever come against me. It's not any of you. It's because the enemy. And again, something clicked as I was watching Derek Bro's video today, because what I needed to see out of you, Derek, was a reaction. I'm not trying to get views. And again, I know you said it, but you're supposed to say that. It's about you reacting to me, and because Kleck reacts to me every day. I know it, he knows it, you know it. Everybody on the inside knows that's on the inside of that. And so I'm just going to keep talking directly to you too, and you can continue to talk about Crown B, and you don't have to say anybody's specific name. And you know what? If you're not even talking about me, whatever, you're still talking to the Christ Spirit in the world. And that's the most important part. So as I started to watch you, I realized you're talking to a spirit. And if somebody matches that spirit, it's going to be known. Like, they'll make themselves known, and it'll be confirmed by the inside. And if that spirit never shows up, well, then the Antichrist spirit reigns for the next 1,000 years. And we'll try again in 1,000 years from now. Because if it doesn't happen, then the Antichrist Spirit rules and takes over. So there's 2 seats. Who takes the seat? Well, Christ is going to be tempted for 40 days in the wilderness, but he already knew that. He's going to be offered at the same time towards the end, because you have to figure out, is it the beginning or the end? At the ending of it, he has to drink this. He has to drink a cup of wrath from his Father. But Christ knows that he ain't taking some literal cup and drinking some literal liquid out of a cup full of wrath. He has to have the wrath of God poured out on him in order for him to continue on and be groomed for the seat to sit as Christ. So there's going to be a bunch of tests. He's going to be tempted for 40 days. I had a feeling there's something about Christ that he, like, how did he know what was happening without the internet back then? Like, how can you know what your entire town is doing and saying just by walking by him? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just the way it works. It can happen. And it did happen. But you just wonder, like, how did he know what they were up to? Well, because his Father gave him the discernment to know what men are saying in their hearts. And that is truly the Christ Spirit rising. It's not just one person. It's the entire planet is going to rise up into that wave that even the Antichrist side is going to be groomed together with that consciousness of once was enemies and now they're not, because you have the Antichrist spirit that gets along with the Christ Spirit, because that's the only way that you can come to a truce. Call it truce. So I'm calling it truce. The only enemy can be my own self. When everybody gets captured and they put us through this test, the 144,000, well, they can't touch you and they can't hurt you, but they can torture you and torment you mentally. They can make you suffer, I don't know, by maybe they're not feeding you anything when you're taken captive. But that is the whole point. You're supposed to be taken captive because it's Bible prophecy. Then what's God going to do? He's going to rip you right out of their arms. As you're getting taken away, just know that that's the case. You can't be touched. It's like a big bully. The big bully is the enemy, the spirit that's traveling through people. It's not the flesh. It truly isn't. I truly understand it now. Derek is not my enemy at all. Not at all. I did think that way. You're right. I did think that way, and I ran with it. But luckily, it was only 10 days ago or something, or 2 weeks ago, that I watched your video for some reason. It just popped up on my thing. I'm like, let me see what you're saying. And then the language, the immediate language, like, okay, this is Clark's brother. Now, when all these events happen, and I know that you two guys are the ones behind the scenes orchestrating it, but it's Bible prophecy being fulfilled. When they take us away and get us to face our own worst fears, that's the time where we will be separated from the world. It's because we're not following along with the mark of the beast system, because we know that this is the mark of the beast system. But other people think, well, there's 3.5 years of this mark of the beast system. Well, there might be. There may be for those that don't know the future of themselves. Therefore, they stay in line with the lost sheep that are still not able to see. I don't know the timing of things. I have an idea, but I'll just go by faith. Faith tells me that this May 21st, 2020 coming up is the focal point. It's the changing day. It's the event that takes place that completely turns us upside down. But in a good way. But at first it's not going to look that way, because it's going to look like complete horror. And we're all going to be put through the test, and they're going to be looking at the contents of our face when they show us the stuff that's happening on TV. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of a... I mean, I'm prepared for whatever it is. I'm prepared for all the fear to hit me all at once, and then just feel it, and then put it aside and move on. But see, when they take you away, you're supposed to think you're getting slaughtered. That's part of the fear. That this is part of what's happening here. So as they... Remember, these are actors. These are actors that are paid. There might be some side people that aren't actors. They're just doing their job, military men. They don't know. But these are people that have roles to play. Like, these are actors. So when you know where we're at in the Bible, then if you know where we're at in the Bible, then play your part. If you know where you are in the Bible, play your part. If you know what group you belong to, play your part. And if you don't know, you're already playing your part because you don't know. Because there's the rest of the world that fits the Bible prophecy that doesn't know. So here we are. We're coming up to, well, the second phase, the testing, the mandatory testing. The vaccine's coming up, I believe, on the 21st day. I believe that comes with May 21st with the economy collapse because of the money being taken away. I said May 1st, but it could be the 21st, and then that's the time. But before that, there's going to be, all throughout the whole thing, so it's going to be peace and safety all the way through. They're going to keep saying it, but then you're going to see how things are so terrible. And then once we hit the deaths of 144,000 in America, then bam, that's the rapture. There you go, and then all hell breaks loose. So I think that by May 21st, 2020, they'll tell us that 144,000 people died of the coronavirus in America. It only makes sense. Because that's like God taking his children home, and then all of a sudden, because it'll be on the news like, exactly 144,000 people died, and a great earthquake in Israel. Because that's when Trump, and I can't help it with predicting the script, Trump and Netanyahu, wait, is he still the president? I don't even know. Or minister, or whatever they call him. And they're shaking hands, and then all of a sudden the earthquake happens over there. Al-Aqsa Mosque just gets wiped out on the 14th of May, 2020. And then there's a 7-day period that it's just nonstop, all hell coming. Because we got a 7-day warning. Remember that, 7-day warning. Your warning is the great earthquake on May 14th, 72nd year Israel. And then the 7-day period, and then the bomb drops. Philly, the sky is darkened. 4 of them in 1 hour, and 1 in New York, 3 in Philly, wiping out William Penn and all that stuff. And then there's like 3 days of that darkness. Now, will the sun actually go down for 3 days? I don't know. I thought, it depends. If they're playing the 5 months out, then it'll happen at the end of the 5 month period for 3 days, because that's the curtain call. When the sun goes down and disappears for 3 days, when it rises back up, that's the curtain call. But for who? For those that knew the future and where it lies. If you know where the future is and you're supposed to be there, you're going to be there. So put yourself there in the future and live in that world, and then you'll eventually get there. They can't stop this even if they wanted to. Like they cannot stop this. Click can't stop this force. You can't stop it even if you wanted to stop it. It's unstoppable because Christ is rising up, and it did start 3 years ago, and it's coming in like a flood. But the enemy is inside of everybody. It's that spirit that's trying to control you, and that's the spirit that is getting its ass whooped. You don't have the numbers yet, right? You will get the numbers. You just don't have them yet. So I hear you loud and clear, both of you. So just keep talking the way you're talking, and I'll keep talking directly. And it doesn't matter if people don't see that, because that's one of the things that would be a demonic force that would try to keep me from talking directly to who I know I'm talking to. There's going to be a time where it's proven, and, well, all the fears have to be taken out first from every one of us. We're getting ready to get put through it. It's a refining period. And yeah, that is when God was allowing that to happen, because it is free will. Well, he knew the outcome because he had to be put through it. Everything taken from Job, but then given back tenfold. And the ones, talking to him, and I get it, it's the elves. The elves are talking to Job, like, all right, look, but he wins in the end because he gets everything back. Now, did his wife really die and his children and everything? I don't know. Wasn't there. But it's a good story. So the enemy is inside of you if you can't control your thoughts and you allow the interpretation